Listeners, we're back. You're back. Listening to the spin-off show here on the Jock and Nerd podcast, or affiliated with the Jock and Nerd podcast. My name's Anthony, and on this episode, I have a guy that is a friend of the show, someone that is or has been on the show a couple times now. So you know him if you've been listening to Jock and Nerd. His name is Scott Weinstein. He is the co-producer of Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live, where he's worked for over 20 years. Along with that, he's also a writer with a recently released book on Amazon.com called Team of Steves, which you should definitely check out. He's also done a web comic called After School Agent. So I really enjoyed having Scott on. We talked about SNL. We talked about his book, Team of Steves. We talked about where comedy is going, how that interacts with social media, the future of SNL, and a lot of other stuff. It was a really enjoyable conversation. I enjoyed having Scott on. He's a great addition to this episode, and you're going to check it out now. This is the Jock Spin-Off Show. Scott, I know it's a late night, so thanks for coming on. What's up, man?
Not much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I know you had to put the kids to sleep. You mentioned earlier off air. That's a task, huh?
It's always a task. Yeah, I have a 5-year-old, almost 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And I'm sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, when does that get better?
I don't know. I haven't heard. I think they eventually put themselves to bed. I think it's like it's a pain in the ass, and they're teenagers, and they don't want anything to do with you. And I don't know if there's I think it's just a switch that flips, and they stop talking to you.
Yeah, I think that I was watching Big Mouth the other day on Netflix.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah, it's so funny. And I think the first or second episode, the girl has her period, and then her little inner demon's like, okay, you had an embarrassing moment. Now is the time when your mom comes into your room to check on you to just be crazy. Just act crazy. It's literally just a flipping of the switch. And she's already like, I hate you, Mom.
I love that. Her hormone monster is so funny. Just like that. Or she says, calls the mom by the first name. He's like, Sharon.
Yeah, call her by her first name.
Yeah,
and just start yelling. Something along those lines. So I think that's the evolution of being and then when you become a teenager, then you go to college, sort of. If you do go to college, the college age is when you start to be like, oh man, I think I liked my parents. I think they were all right.
I think when you see the world as hard and
it's like when you escape your bubble of, I live at my parents' house. I'm going to school. They take me to school. Now I go home. I can ask them for whatever I want because I don't really have any money, and they're just going to provide it for me unless you have some crazy crazy parents that make you work from a young age. You're gonna have to you get things until you're probably 15 or 16.
Yeah,
and then you get help with things after that.
Yeah. Yeah,
really, it might not even be till after college that you really start to.
Yeah, I think when you have to start paying bills and finding a doctor and grown up things are how the fuck did I do this? I remember when I first moved to New York, and it's definitely after college. I don't think I saw a doctor for 5 years, and then after college, I should get a doctor. And this was infancy years of the internet, so it wasn't you didn't just Google it.
Right.
And I was like, where are doctors? The only doctor I ever knew is one from back in Norfolk, and I don't think he wants to see me anymore. And yeah, so that was I remember being a very moment of I think my parents knew something I didn't know.
Right. Yeah, I remember in college, my parents still helped me out, pay my bills during college. So even then, I was appreciative, but I didn't really realize it until after college when I was like, oh, wait, I need to get a job. Yeah. How do I do that? Yeah. Who do I talk to? What do I even do?
What is it? Where do you get a resume? How do you make it look?
Right. Yeah, that's when you start to so basically what I'm telling you is they will be a pain in the butt till after school.
I think
that's what it seems like.
Then they're sweet. Then I don't know. My daughter's figured out how to work us very quickly. She's 3, and she'll get in trouble, and then will get mad at her and she'll start laughing. But like, it's like, I'm cute. You love me, right? I'm like, God, you really are really cute. And it's hard not to laugh at her.
It's hard to not laugh and stay mad.
Yeah. And then, all right, fine, you win. Like my son will, it just is a fight. I mean, well, we always have power struggles, but like, now, but she's figured out. Girls are so much smarter than guys. It's so watching my kids grow up. I'm like, we were always outclassed. Guys never had a chance.
Girls seem to figure it out quicker. Guys are still like just bumping into things and like hitting their head on the wall numerous times, like proverbially.
Yeah.
Whereas girls like figure out the game pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's fun. I've been enjoying watching. My son's just finished kindergarten, and it's fun to watch him with. Like he's still, he's still got girlfriends and boyfriends. So like he goes back and forth. Like neither is like, I only want to play with boys now, or I only want to play with girls. So they still like hang out together. And it's funny watching, especially like birthday parties, watching the boys and the girls, and like you see the girls like watch the boys just like run into walls, and you're like, that doesn't seem right. I don't know.
Those boys are really dumb.
Yeah, very dumb.
Well, we could talk about children the whole time, but before we continue on that stuff, or whatever we want to talk about, Scott, you've been on Jock and Nerd twice?
Yes.
Twice?
Mm-hmm.
And you know Imran personally.
Yes.
And you know, I think we've had a few other guests that you might know, but the reason, well, not the main reason, the main reason that Imran had you on, besides being your friend, is that you do some cool stuff, I guess, right?
I try to, yeah.
What are some of the things you try to be cool at?
I wrote a book called Team of Steves. It's a YA sci-fi book. It's available on Amazon. So go look up Team of Steves on Amazon. And I think it's still, if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's still free. Or you could just be cool and buy the paperback.
Yeah, just buy it.
I did that. I wrote some comic book stuff a few years ago, which was a lot of fun. Those are mainly it. And then way back in the day, my buddies and I used to shoot little videos just before the internet, just before YouTube came out. We would do these little short videos, and we loved doing it. And they're like, how do we show these to people? I don't know. And like 2 weeks later, YouTube started, and like, yeah, all right.
Damn.
Ship had sailed. But yeah, so I try to do little creative projects on the side.
You're very humble. You didn't lead with the thing I would have thought you would lead with.
Oh, with my job, with my day job, yeah, with Saturday Night Live. Okay, so my day job is I'm a producer for Saturday Night Live, and that is I've been doing that for 23 years now, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You started that. How old were you when you started doing that?
I was an intern. I started as an intern. I was 22, I think.
Oh wow,
is that right? Yeah, I was 22. Yeah. So I'd transferred and lost a couple of years, and so I was still a junior. So yeah, I was like 22 when I was in my junior year, and yeah, so I had been there kicking around for a very long time. They've been nice enough to let me stick around, and now I am I'm co-producer of Weekend Update. That's been I've been doing that specifically since 1998.
Jeez.
I started when Colin Quinn was doing it. And, sorry, I just saw that. My wife's watching the debate. I just saw that woman, Marianne Williamson's on. Did you see the first debate with her?
I did not. I watched a little bit of it, but the name doesn't ring a bell or anything.
No, I don't know who she is. Apparently, she's like the self-help guru. Like she had Oprah, like got her going or something. Huh. She's such an awesome space cadet. She's so fantastic. She just like was talking about like what we really need to do to beat Trump is we need love and we need.
Oh, geez.
I'm like, oh my God, you're not.
This is a great platform to run on.
It really is, but she is a real good space case. It's fantastic. I'm sorry. So, what was I saying?
What were you talking about? Weekend update.
Yes, I've been doing Weekend Update since '98. I started working when Colin Quinn was doing it, and I've kind of worked my way up. I started as an assistant, and then sort of as people came and went, I started taking more and more responsibility on. And one day I fooled them all, and now I'm a co-producer of the segment.
Look at you.
Yeah.
You've made it.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into the Saturday Night Live stuff, I got to the last time we had you on because of Team of Steves.
Mm-hmm.
How's everything going with that?
Good.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to give a little brief synopsis of it. So, because I know everyone was like, if you're listening now, you went to Amazon and you looked it up.
You looked it up already.
Yeah, so you looked it up and you're like hovering over the click to buy button because you're buying the paperback because that's super cool of you.
Yes.
The elevator pitch is Team of Steves is about this 15-year-old kid named Steve who comes face to face with his doppelgangers from other dimensions, and he decides to use them to try to make his life better, and in the process sort of makes his life more complicated, and ultimately has to figure out how to get them home. And it's funny, some light sci-fi, some good high school hijinks, and I think it's a very enjoyable book. And I think if you're looking for a good, fun summer read, that is the one. It's good for all ages. I believe it's good for all ages. If you're, I've heard from a lot of grandmas who seem to enjoy it, which is nice.
Grandmas, look at you cornering the market.
I've cornered the market with grandmas, but yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, and I'm very proud of it. So.
There you go. I'm glad it's out. Glad it's doing well for you. So number one, good to hear on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, I don't know if anyone's buying it right now. I got to figure out how to.
Do you get like notifications from Amazon every time it gets something that's bought?
You don't get notifications, but there's a whole dashboard where you can like follow along with who's downloaded it. It's a really interesting interface for the Kindle version because with the paperback it tracks how many you've actually sold, but with the Kindle it tracks how many pages people have read. So this is another thing. Cool. If anyone's at home, you can get it and just flip through it real quick and just go through all. It's like on Kindle. I think it's like 250, 300 pages. Just flip through till the end, and it looks like you read the whole book, and I get credit for it. But yeah, it tracks how many pages people have read, and then after a certain number of pages, you get credit for having a full book read.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a whole interesting little process they've got.
It's $4.99 on Kindle, or is it still free?
It's $4.99, but if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free.
Is Kindle Unlimited like I've seen that. Is that like a subscription based?
Yeah,
it looks like
it may be. If you have Amazon Prime too, you may get that as well.
Got it.
It
looks like
that umbrella.
$10 a month.
Yeah, something like whatever Amazon Prime is.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's. I think it's doing well. I mean, I've got to do more to get people to read it.
How did you? Yeah. What was your? Did you have any sort of strategy? Like you wrote it, then how did you go about getting it out there, like promoting it and all that?
I'm doing Facebook ads. I try to do little ads on Amazon. There's a whole science to that. I just I've got to figure out. I have not really kind of done that. It's part of this trilogy. So I've got book 1 done, and I had done drafts of book 2 and 3. And so now I'm rewriting book 2 to hopefully get that out by next year. So I've sort of gotten tied up into the rewriting of it, and I have not been doing a very good job of marketing, and I've got to kind of go back to that soon. But
I mean that the marketing aspect in and of itself is kind of like a just another part of work that you have to do. Like it's not something that you can just turn on for an hour. No,
it definitely takes a lot of concentration and a lot of sort of knowing what you do. There are a lot of classes out there to take. I've got a buddy of mine who, David Kazi, is a very good writer. He's got, also search him. He's got a whole library now on Amazon of books that he's self-published. And he took a class that he said was very, very helpful.
If you could take that class and relay the message to me and Imran, that'd be great.
Yeah. It's like, how are you guys? How are your numbers?
Our numbers are pretty solid. I mean, they've steadily grown over the years. At first, we kind of just did word of mouth, friends and family kind of marketing,
mm-hmm.
and just being consistent over time, people just started finding our show.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Imran, when he posts on WordPress, he does a lot of SEO stuff, and WordPress kind of helps you out with that.
What's SEO stuff?
Search engine optimization.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you look up certain words, we come up, or we're one of the first 5 things to show up.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then we've dabbled in some marketing. I mean, we've had a lot of different. Like, we did some Facebook stuff. We did. We have our own Twitter. We do social media. We've invested in some marketing with some different sites that guarantee you a certain amount of downloads or something. It's really kind of like screaming into the abyss
mm-hmm.
with podcasting. So we're still trying to figure that out. But we're at the point where we don't lose money every month with this.
Okay.
Actually break even, or actually we make a little bit of money to now buy new equipment or support us go into the movie theater to review movies to then review for the show. So it's actually good now at a point where we don't feel like it's a burden, and we never felt like it was a burden, but now it's at a point where we can feel good about it every day.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
What are your expenses?
Well, we have hosting fees on Libsyn. So Libsyn is where all the files live every month to upload. Website fees. And I believe there's a couple other fees associated with just some of the platforms we're on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a huge amount, but there is costs literally every month for doing what we're doing.
Gotcha. So it's not totally free.
No, it's not at all free.
Right.
It's not even like $10 a month, whatever. I think it's probably like $60 a month, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a decent chunk of change.
Right. And then you have to figure too, when we first started, we had to buy all the equipment and buy all the stuff. So I remember it being like a probably $1,200 to $1,500 investment.
Oh,
right
wow.
off the bat. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's not something you jump off.
Right.
You do get into lightly. Yeah.
The funny thing is when me and Imran first started this, it was literally in a car talking about, hey, we should do a podcast. I brought it up to Imran. Imran was off for 2 weeks dealing with some family stuff. In that 2 weeks, he bought all the equipment, learned how to do a podcast, and then said, okay, I got all the equipment. Here, let me get $600 from you. I'm like, all right, we're doing this. So in a way, we kind of did just jump off the deep end and start doing it.
Oh, you guys did a great job. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's all Imran. He really does all the work. I just kind of show up and talk, and then he does all the work, but he likes doing it.
Yeah, no, he gets real focused on that stuff. I mean, that was definitely how he was in college. He just find something he wanted to do and was like, just boom.
Well, for him, as he explains it to me, it's everything he likes to do wrapped up in one. So he loves to talk.
Yeah.
He loves comic books and movies.
Mm-hmm.
He likes kind of like editing and website designing. He likes drawing, which he has to do for like a lot of our images and stuff on our website. He likes graphic design. So like, and when he was in college, I believe he was on high school or college radio. Mm-hmm. So he has some familiarity with sound engineering as well. So it's literally all the things he likes wrapped into one thing. That's
very good. That's always very impressive of him. At the college radio station, we went to Pratt.
Mm-hmm.
I think literally broadcast just across the campus. Like had just enough power. I don't know if you're familiar with the physical layout of Pratt at all, but it's about 2 or 3 square city blocks in Brooklyn. And I think the radio station was in Willoughby Hall, if I'm correct. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, it basically broadcast. You could have used one of those Radio Shack CB radios and like had the same power.
Sure.
But I remember he used to do that. That was cool.
Yeah, he loves to talk, so that was probably awesome for him, and that kind of spurred his eventual progression to doing a podcast. He had told me that he got like a book on doing podcasts back in like 2005 and just never ended up doing it until I kind of was like, hey, we should do this together.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to Team of Steves, just in the creative process, how long does it take to write a book? I'm sure it's different for everybody, but for
me, it took the first book took about 5 years. From really putting the first words on paper to the end was totally about 5 years. Probably would have taken a little less time, but I finished, I think, maybe the second draft of the first book. And I was talking to my friend David, who he said that one of the big things, I was sort of catching up with him and talking about what I was doing. And he said, yeah, in self-publishing world, series tend to do better because people, they go to the site, they see one book, they just think, they kind of write it off and ignore it. You see that he's got a couple of books and people tend to think, well, all right, there's something to this person. And so when I'd finished the first book, there was a very easy point at the end where it could have changed it and it lent itself nicely to a longer story. So I didn't want to finish the first book and then like start the second book and get into the third book and realize if I had changed one tiny thing in book one, my life would have been easier in book three. And now I've written myself into a corner. So I wanted to have everything on paper, have everything kind of laid out. So what I did was I did rough drafts of 2 and 3 just to know where I really clearly know where everything was going. Not that things aren't going to change, but once I felt like I got through book 3 and kind of felt like I know what this is now, I then went back and really focused on book 1, and that took a little longer than I thought. I went through and I kind of got to a point where I thought I'm done, and so I ended up hiring a person I thought would be a copy editor, and this woman Bethany, who's great, and she also did some sort of editing, and she's finished her pass and sent me back a bunch of notes, and they were really great notes, but they were also involved notes, so I had to go. That was like another year of going back and rewriting that, and then I finally kind of got it to another point where I was pretty happy, and I sent it back to her, and she had a few more light notes, and I put those in, and then I was like, all right, now it's really done. And then I had to go and do the formatting, and which I had some experience with, like with Photoshop and with and formatting and Word, and I had a couple programs for formatting to ebook, but it's a time-consuming process, and you have to go through and do it. So that in itself that part probably took 2 or 3 months of just the formatting and getting it all put together. But then, so that was 5 years. About
5 years for the one book.
Yeah, hopefully 2 will be out much sooner than that. Yeah,
I was gonna say, what's the timeline for you?
I'd really
optimistically.
I'd
for the
love
next
to
2.
have it out by next spring.
Next spring, and then you're planning to do a third, right?
Yeah, and then the third, I think, is actually. Hopefully, may take a little longer. That's the roughest right now. That's the second book I had managed to do a second draft on, and the third one it's kind of a fleshed out outline. It's sort of underplaying what it is, but it needs to be expanded a lot. So the third one's going to have a lot more work involved in it.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is like, when you started this whole process, did you have an outline for 3 books, or is it like you did the one and you're like, okay, I'm going to keep this going, and now you've got second one done and a third outline in your mind, and you're kind of just every day coming up with new stuff, or I don't even know, how does this work?
Well, I outlined each book I outlined separately, but for the whole series, I very quickly knew like what book 2 would be, and what book 3 would be, what the general gist of each of them would be. So then when I started with each book, I did do a outline. I would go through and hit all the major story points. So like there's the inciting incident, the first plot point, the midpoint, second plot point, and then the ending. And then within that outline, then I just keep fleshing out all the little steps to get in between those different milestones in the book. And once I sort of got to a point where I kind of knew what each chapter was, then I was ready to kind of get started actually writing the words. And I would sit down, and every day I would start on a chapter, and I had sort of the 3 or 4 sentences I knew what that chapter was, and I would flesh out that chapter a little bit in my head of I know where this is going to be. Well, now what's the arc of this chapter? What's going to happen in this chapter? And so I would just kind of flesh out a mini outline of that chapter, and then I just go through and start plugging away at that writing that chapter, and step by step you get to the end, and you get to the finish the last page, and then you have to go back and reread everything and rewrite everything, and
make sure it like all connects properly.
Oh yeah, and there's, especially with the first book, there were things I would start and I would get to it. I realized this isn't working. I just drop it. And so now I have to go back. I have this character that doesn't exist in the rest of the book. Now I got to like write him out of the first 5 chapters. And so that's a whole extensive thing. And, yeah, it takes a while. But it's rewarding. I've enjoyed it a lot. I got to say, it was a creative itch I needed to scratch, and I'm very glad I've been doing it.
So when you were doing, like, will you do this every day? Because you're doing this on top of your full-time job, which is also writing.
Yeah, it took a while to find that rhythm. I initially, with SNL, we do have a lot of off time, so we do 20, 22 episodes a year, depending. So in the off weeks, initially that was when I did most of my writing.
Got it.
But I would also find I'd be missing. We may also do 2 or 3 week runs of the show, and then I'm like, well, now I've missed like 3 weeks worth of writing, and sometimes, especially in the fall, it could be like we'd have 3 week run of shows. My one off week would be Thanksgiving, and then 3 more weeks. Well, I can't write on Thanksgiving because we're away. So now, like, that's 2 months down. So what I started doing was I'd start writing on the train when I on the way to work. Just finding those times during the day, during the show weeks when I could write.
Man, it takes focus.
It's, once I got into the rhythm of it, it wasn't bad. And
really?
I have a little blip I mentioned in the back of in my acknowledgments in the book, but New Jersey Transit has quiet cars.
Oh, okay.
And which are legitimately quiet. People are pretty stringent about it. If you're talking, they kick you out. It's like self-police, so it's very nice. But
self-police, so someone goes crazy on there, everyone's gonna like get the hell out of here, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's there can be a lot of like passive aggressive shushing, and then there's always one person who'll be like, "All right, this is a quiet car," and people act like you told them they're on the wrong train to Mars or something. Like, what? Yeah, just be quiet. Get off the train. Go to another car, man. Not a big deal. Or stop talking. But
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, on longer commuter lines, there's usually some quiet car. But so I'd sit in the car, and then I usually get a decent amount done, and then on the way home I do some more. And if there were quiet times at work, I'd get some stuff done. But
it still takes focus, though. Like every time you have a free minute when you're not working, you're like, okay, I'm not going to just daydream or look at YouTube videos.
Yeah, I mean, I make it sound like I'm more focused than I am. I got it like the stupid phone.
Oh, come on, man. Now I feel like you're ruining this image of you that I have of you. Where you're this super focused, compartmentalized person that doesn't waste any minutes of his day.
Oh, every second is completely, there's something's productive happening every day.
Yes, yes.
The dumb phone. The best thing that happened in my life is that Apple put in the time limit thing. You can set the time limit for social media. I don't know if you've seen this. It's like whatever.
Oh yeah.
So I finally did that. That made a huge difference in my life. Because
What's your limit on social media?
I keep it at like 15 minutes, whatever the shortest is.
15 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you I don't ignore it sometimes, but I wasn't getting anything done. It was as soon as I had to stop writing, I hand wrote the book because I couldn't when I was doing the first book, I couldn't I discovered I just can't write into the computer because as soon as I was having trouble thinking the next word, I just clicked over to the internet.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's so tempting.
Yeah, it's right there, and
I find that to be the case at work too. If I'm like, I don't really know the answer to this, I don't want to work. I'm like, I'm going to look at something.
Yeah. It's just to turn. Sometimes you just need that break to turn your brain off, but it's a way worse way to turn off your brain.
Yeah.
So I started writing in a notebook because at least that way I could ignore
old school. Look at that.
Yeah. So I hand wrote it all. That's also why it took so much longer.
Using a pencil too? That'd be pretty awesome.
Pen. I got it.
Wow.
But
I'd be this throwback guy on a train writing in a notebook with a pencil.
Yeah, just a cigarette hanging in my mouth. But I had to transcribe it back to the computer. Then if I obviously have to go back to the computer, so I have to type it in.
But it's a lot easier to transcribe rather than come up with stuff and write on the fly on a computer.
Yeah, because then I don't have to stop and think about what it is.
Exactly, it's mindless. Going.
Yeah, but so it was the stupid phones are the worst. Yeah,
they're absolutely. I mean, phones are like a blessing and a curse all in one. Like they've connected the world more than ever. We're more easily accessible to all sorts of information, but goddamn, are they distracting? So distracting, and I think take away from like regular life productivity. Yeah, absolutely. There was I saw Neil Gaiman was on Seth's show a while back, and he had a very good quote. He had a very good little snippet where he's talking about we don't let ourselves be bored anymore. And he's saying how boredom is so important for creativity or just anything in your life that it lets your mind sort of process information and let your mind wander. And he's like, that's why you hear more people say stuff like, I had my best idea in the shower, because you don't have your phone in the shower. And you're separated from the world. But he was saying, you got to let yourself be bored and just sort of look at the world around you. And I try to kind of do that a lot more now. And I like, especially waiting in line at the supermarket, your first instinct is to pull out your phone.
Yeah. And I'm like, don't do that. Just like sit here and just stare into space or look at people, try to figure out what their lives are.
Yeah. I wish I could, I should start doing that too. Like I find myself being, waiting in line. Okay. I don't want to look around. I'd rather just look at my phone, because that's what everyone else is doing. It's almost like weird if you're not looking at your phone. Yeah, and I start to notice now. I've seen it, like waiting for the train, especially. I look up and down the aisle or the platform, and you just see everyone's head down, looking at their phone. And I'm like, wow, this is weird. remember. I mean, I was young, am old enough to still remember not having phones. Yeah, but I mean, like you would just be bored or just look around or like daydream or imagine things. You wouldn't be distracted. Oh, totally. So how old are you? I'm 31. Okay, so I got my first cell phone when I was in high school. So probably like 14. Okay. So I still can remember being under 14. Was it a cell phone or was it a smartphone? It was, it was a Razor. Okay. I believe it was called the Razor from T-Mobile. Right. So I think it was a pseudo smartphone. Right. It was like very pixelated images. You could play a couple games, maybe look up the internet, but not really. It wasn't fast or anything. Yeah, like anything pre-iPhone, I figure is just straight cell phone. Yeah. Then I would consider that a cell phone. Yeah. I didn't get my first iPhone. So probably college. Might have been like Might have been after college. I don't remember. It wasn't a great phone until like after college.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. iPhone was after college. So yeah, that was probably 22, 23 was when I was finally like, oh, this is what the rest of the world lives like now.
Yeah. I held off so long on getting an iPhone, and then
out of principle, or
yeah, being a cheap Jew, I was like, I basically didn't want to pay for a data plan. Like I was like, I've had like gotten grandfathered into some like unlimited talk and text plan.
Yeah, you know what? I was on the same boat too. Where in college I was on some unlimited plan with a pseudo, not really a smartphone. It was like a pseudo smartphone, just like color images on my screen, but nothing great. And I was on like the unlimited text and calling, and I was like, why? Like everyone was getting iPhones, and I was going, why do you guys need that?
Mm-hmm.
All I use this phone for is to call and text.
Yeah.
I don't need that. And then I got the iPhone, and at first I was overwhelmed, like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, someone teach me how to use this. And now I'm like, why would you not have an iPhone or a smartphone?
It's very hard to function in the world without it now.
Everything.
I mean, the train, again, talking a lot about commuting, but the train tickets, you bet all the tickets are online now, or there's an app for it.
Absolutely. I work in sports and entertainment, and a lot of the sports and entertainment tickets are now they're getting rid of paper tickets. So,
I mean, it makes sense. Like, why? Yeah. It's probably security wise, it's far easier. You can't.
Much easier.
Probably easier not to forge. Or,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's one of the big reasons is paper tickets are easy to, like a PDF where they can print out, very easy to counterfeit.
Yeah.
Regular old hard stock tickets, you can't really. So another big thing is if they give away the hard stock ticket, you don't know who that person is coming into the building. But if the tickets are mobile, then you know exactly who those tickets are going to and who's coming into your building.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And then I'm sure on like the marketing side of it too, you know all their data, you know who their age and what they watch. And
now you know who they are, and you know who to. You're not marketing to Joe over here who has season tickets, but really just gives them away to all his friends. You're like, oh, I'm going to market to all his friends now. Right. Like I'm going to make sure they buy tickets. So that's what a lot of it's security, but a lot of it's data mining.
Yeah. So that's the other side of it.
Yeah, that's the side of it where like Imran will be like, oh my God, the Illuminati's watching you.
He's right. Unfortunately, like it's not the Illuminati, it's the Russians, but it's fine. They are. Well, it's not even. Yeah. Then it's like in Facebook too, and yeah, I know. It's how much privacy are you willing to give up? And I don't know. Wait, so what do you? I don't think I know this. What do you do exactly?
Yeah, so I can tell you off air exactly with the company I work for. But I do. So I used to work for a minor league sports team in Chicago, where I sold tickets. Basically, I'd call businesses, call individuals, sell them tickets to the sporting team that I worked for, season tickets, group outings, things like that. And then eventually I got promoted up to where I was selling, but then also managing a team under me to do the same thing I was doing.
Oh, cool.
And then from there, I moved on to a much, much bigger company that is involved in live events, whether they be sporting events or concerts or theater. And I don't necessarily sell tickets anymore. I more or less help brokers. Are you familiar with brokers?
Yes.
Yeah, I help them sell their tickets now.
Oh.
So that's the gist of my role. But yeah, I'm in live events basically.
That's awesome.
It is really cool. So there's a lot of cool perks, and it's cool to monitor, what concerts and tickets and sporting events are being out and released and all that jazz. So I'm pretty aware of literally everything that's going on in entertainment.
Is there? Do you get to go to the shows?
I do. Yeah, I do get to go to. It's not like unlimited. So the first thing I got when I started working at this company was everyone was going, oh, can you get me free tickets? No, I can't get you free tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, I can in some instances, but a lot of it's mostly like I have to be there. I'm not supposed to be abusing it. And like there's limits to stuff I can get. Like I can't just be like, I want to go to every single concert that comes through here.
Right.
There's like you have to pick and choose, and there you get like a certain allotment of how many you can go to per year. So I have to be a little bit more careful with it, but yeah, I do get some cool perks.
What have you seen that has been cool so far?
I've only started working there within the past month and a half.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know how familiar you are with like hip hop and R&B, but I saw Khalid a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's an R&B singer. I saw Wiz Khalifa, who's a rapper.
Yeah.
I'm going to Lollapalooza for free.
Ooh, all right.
Actually, when this show releases, I'll have been at Lollapalooza for free.
Nice.
And then I plan to do Florida Georgia Line. I've never been to a country concert, so I'm going to do that.
Oh, I bet that would be good.
Yeah, I've never actually done it. I like some of the music. I'm not like the biggest country fan.
Yeah.
But if it's free and I can experience something different, why not, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've never been to a country concert myself, but I do every now and then when I'm like tired of listening to like the same radio stations over and over. I'll turn on like the local country station. I'm like, oh, this is a nice change of pace. I'm enjoying this.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it is a nice change of pace. What were you saying? I
was going to say it's interesting with country music. I'm sure you sort of get this, and maybe it's different in Chicago. I don't know, but we've noticed this at SNL that we'll have country music stars on, mm-hmm. and we're not 100% aware. Like, we're maybe a little bit aware of the name, and our ratings go through the roof. Because like, oh, the whole rest of the country loves this person and watches and wants to see this person, and we had like almost zero understanding of who they were.
My theory on that is I think growing up in Chicago, I wasn't all that exposed to country music.
Yeah, I think big cities, the coast, you're just not, and it's
exactly.
Not, yeah.
But then once I moved to moving to the suburbs, and then going down to school in Urbana-Champaign, which is like 2.5 hours south of Chicago. Mm. Then I was like, oh my God, all these white people from the suburbs love country. Yeah. Like literally all of them. Like everyone loves country. Like I was like, wow, this is way more prevalent than I thought. I thought this was like a niche genre, like in some like rural part of the US where there was like one house every 2 miles. No, not at all.
It's big time. It's
big time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's very surprising every time, but yeah.
I think it's getting more prevalent too in the big cities because obviously those people that grew up with country in the suburbs of big cities then move to the city and then they like country. So I'm seeing like a lot more country stuff come through Chicago.
That's very interesting. Like, yeah, we get New York's definitely been getting their fair share of shows like that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's like I said, it's not my favorite thing in the world, but I hear it's fun and the music isn't terrible, so why not?
Yeah. That's cool. That's a fun job.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you exactly where off air. It's just one of those things where, and I've said this before on this show, but I don't make enough money on this podcast yet to do it full time.
Right.
So you could isolate any piece of audio on me and make it sound like I'm a really bad person. So I don't know. No. I trust all my listeners, but you never can be too careful. So I don't want someone Googling me and being like, "Oh, you work there. Let me just report to your boss that you said this."
Well, I think it's wise. I think that's very wise. You don't know. I don't even think it's a matter of like what you say, like what you say now. It's what something you said in the past that could now be misconstrued.
Yeah, like that James Gunn stuff.
Yeah, it's so. That's crazy. Like, everything. Like, was it Kevin Hart had the same thing?
Yeah, Kevin Hart had something. I think it was that. Yeah, I think it was something similar.
Yeah, very well. Yeah, he had like a lot of anti-gay stuff in his.
Yeah, he had some bits where he was saying, like, paraphrasing, but if he were to find out his kids were gay, he'd beat them up or something like that. Yeah,
and by the way, stuff that was like had been out there for years and part of his act that made him super famous. I mean, not defending like the context of the material, but like it wasn't a secret. It was not. That was what was kind of crazy.
Right.
This wasn't hidden. It's on albums. Like it's out there.
Right.
But yeah, times need to shift a little bit, and suddenly you can't say it, and you can get in trouble for it. Yeah, but it's wise. It's wise to be cautious.
You know, that brings up a point that I can transition with you to SNL a little bit. Is that something you have to be cautious of now when you're writing for SNL? Because it seems like let me provide some context. It seems like the world is a lot more sensitive nowadays, and a lot more hyper aware of what is being joked about or what is even being said.
Yeah, it's it factors.
And you guys aren't on. And you guys aren't like HBO or like Netflix where you can just like swear or like be a little bit more edgy.
It's not. No, it's not. I don't even think it matters if it's edgy or not. I don't think it's HBO or Netflix or any of those are excluded from it.
Sure.
It's a little. I mean, PC police. That's kind of a oversimplification of it, but we do have to ask ourselves as we're going to closer and closer to air, like, can this turn around and bite us in the ass? And you have to weigh. For me, the metric is what we're saying defendable.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's something that's off color, if it's something that the audience could ooh at, I think it's you don't want to do that too much because you don't want to alienate the audience that they're going to like be upset by everything you say. But
sure,
I think if it's a joke that is making a point that says something that your target is a higher target. You're picking on somebody, not just picking on a little person, but you're picking on a higher a politician or something. And you can defend it, and it's something that you can say, what my point was accurate. I think that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think if you're making fun of, if it's an off-color joke and it's a topic of somebody who got hurt, if it's somebody who, they have disability or something, I mean, we'd never do that, but like something in that range where you kind of can't say the next day, all right, maybe that was off, that was too far.
Mm-hmm.
And we do go through that filter throughout the day on Saturday of like, all right, that's, we've been laughing at this joke. All right, now how's the audience going to react to this?
Right.
Colin kind of got in some trouble. It's been a couple of years now, where he did this. It was a joke about Tinder had like 37 new gender categories, and the punchline was one of them. I'm paraphrasing the punchline. I apologize to the writer if they're listening and hear me paraphrase it wrong. But basically, the gist of the joke was 37 different types of gender. One of them is also called the reason Hillary lost.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big uproar the next day from trans community and who were like, well, are you saying that we cost Hillary the election? And that wasn't really the point of the joke. The point of the joke was that the Democrats sort of got so in the weeds of like different social issues, mm-hmm. and completely missed the bigger point of not campaigning in Michigan, like, and the economy, they weren't campaigning for workers and stuff, and that. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here, but that was
I'm
the point.
Following.
The point of the joke was not an anti-trans joke, and that's mm-hmm. how it got interpreted. And it's
man, that's hard to interpret how it will be interpreted by different groups of people.
Yeah, and I mean, we try our best. But sometimes things just go through, or fortunately we get to hear it in front of an audience,
right,
a number of times, and so we get a good sense, especially after dress, like, all right, we can hear the audience that wasn't on board with this.
So the audience is there for all the different tests, basically.
We have a run through that we do at 7:00 on Saturdays, which is mainly the studio crew.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bunch of union dudes in New York. So like that's not the most accurate assessment of like.
They'll probably laugh at most anything, huh?
They'll laugh at stuff that like's really off color, and you're like,
yeah, right.
Wait a second,
right?
Hold on, is this going to be?
That's just normal talk for them at the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then dress rehearsal, we do have a full studio audience, and that starts at 8:00, and so that's regular people, and that gives us a good sense of where people are going to be at.
Mm-hmm.
And so by air, we kind of and then within the show itself, all the producers have been watching, and not just Weekend Update, but everybody,
right?
All producers all around. So like they'll chime in, and especially if there's something. Fortunately, now I think the show is diversified a lot behind the scenes, so there are certainly a lot more women in power at the show than when I started, and so we'll always, they'll be like, that joke is not something that two men should be making, and we're like, yeah, you're probably right.
right.
But
by the end of every show, is it like a relief, or is it still like joyous for you, where you're like, man, we did another one? Or is it like, we got it done?
It's a little bit, we got it done, we got it over the line.
Yeah. We scored on this one, but we barely got it over, basically.
Yeah, sometimes there's always the excitement when the show starts. Mm-hmm. And some weeks you feel really great about everything, and then some weeks, for me, I've been doing this a long time. Some weeks I'm just like, let's just get this on TV. I want to go home. But what time are you getting home? Sorry. The show ends at 1, and I fortunately get a car service home. So nice. Usually I try to be in the car at 1, and usually I'm home by 1:45 at the latest. Mm-hmm. And then my wife usually lets me sleep in on Sunday a little bit.
There you go.
But you can only sleep in so much. The kids are.
Yeah, I was going to say you got 2 kids.
Because I stay in the city Friday nights because we work till 2-3 in the morning, and then I have to be back starting about 10 the next morning. So coming back and forth to Jersey is impossible. And
this is 22 weeks out of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Friday and Saturday I'm just gone from the house. So the kids are usually like, all right, where have you been?
What's your Sunday through Thursday then like?
Sunday, home, and Monday through Thursday are pretty much normal working hours.
Like a 9 to 5?
For Update. Yeah, we don't, because we pretty much put Update together on Friday nights and Saturday morning. We have a team of writers who are writing all week long, but we don't lock it down till the end of the week, so we really don't need to stay late. And I certainly don't try to stay late at the beginning of the week. Mm-hmm. Come home, make dinner for the kids, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But then Friday and Saturday, I just have to be there Friday and Saturday.
Right. So. What's off season like then? Like, are you still going to an office, or because I'm traditional. I'm the normal 9 to 5. I mean, I did work in sports, so I would have to work weekends as well. But I'm used to that. Going to the office Monday, going home at 5 o'clock, doing it again. Yeah, no, on off weeks we don't really have to go in. I mean, right.
There is some stuff that happens. It's more so than it used to, but I don't usually need to. We're not doing anything for Update, so I usually don't have to go in.
Wow, so 30 weeks out of the year, you're kind of more free?
Yeah, so I fill it up with writing and chores around the house and taking care of the kids and that kind of stuff.
And you don't have like a side job or anything like that?
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. 22 weeks out of the year, your schedule's pretty rough.
Yeah.
But then the other 30, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
I can be with the family.
It's not
I can
bad.
do my hobbies.
Yeah, exactly. I'm fortunate that it gives me the time to write. That's a definite big perk.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this, going back to the kind of the topic of, being a little bit more aware of what you're writing and all that stuff. Imran and especially Rugboy laments about this all the time, especially in comedy. But where do you see comedy going in the environment that we have right now?
That's a really good question.
Having been involved in comedy for as long as you have,
I don't see this as a sustainable. I don't see this.
It can't be, right?
I think it'll go away at some point. I think we're in the heat of it right now of calling people to task for not being open-minded. Mm-hmm. But comedy can't be that and survive. It doesn't become funny.
Right.
And I'm not advocating making fun of people who shouldn't be made fun of. I think comedy has to be a little reckless, and it has to be mean on a certain level. It doesn't have to be harsh, but comedy is about making a point about something. It's making an observation about the world around us, and it cannot, and it will die in an environment where you have to worry about offending you have to worry about making everyone happy with that joke.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the difference, is not necessarily not worrying about offending people, but having to worry about making people happy every time.
Yeah, and I think that will... I think part of the big problem is bloggers. There's so many, it's such a general term, but there are so many sites dedicated to comedy, and so many sites just didn't need content. And everybody has to have some kind of hot take. And so you're really digging deep to find something. And what's happening is they're digging so deep, they're tearing apart something that just, there's nothing to tear apart. I mean, a joke should be a superfluous thing that kind of lives for 2 seconds and goes away. It's not meant to stand up to too much scrutiny. And these websites are scrutinizing the material like this, and it just can't, it won't, you can't keep doing it if that's what the circumstances are going to be. I think there'll be a backlash against this. I think, I don't know when it'll happen. I sort of see I feel like I see a collapse of, not a collapse, but a seismic shift in what social media is coming up somewhere on the horizon. And I think when that happens, you'll see a lot of that kind of go
away.
Yeah, that online vitriol will go away a little bit. And that's really what it is. You stir up the crowd. Some guy blogs about some joke they don't like, and then everyone dog piles on that person. And I think there's going to be changes to social media, and when that happens, that kind of mob mentality is going to kind of fade a little bit. I hope.
Do you have a prediction on what kind of changes we'll see in social media?
I think there's going to be some kind of accountability that's going to be forced upon Facebook and everything else, and Twitter and whatnot. I don't see it happening soon, but I think what we saw from the 2016 election, and they've sort of been dragging their feet on it, but what we saw with the 2016 election is there's free speech, and then there's completely unrestricted speech with no consequences. And that's what needs to be reined back in. You cannot just you can't walk into a movie theater and yell fire.
Right.
And what's happening online is people are yelling fire online, and there's no repercussions for it.
Yeah.
And
the only thing that's scary about what you're suggesting, and I agree, there needs to be accountability for, you can't just make false claims and say things and just let it be out there as if no one's checking you. The only thing is who checks that person. Like, you don't want Twitter monitoring that, right?
Right. And you don't want the government monitoring.
But you don't want government monitoring. Like, who does it?
I don't know. That's a hard question. I remember somewhere in college or high school or something learning about this, that sometimes technology evolves faster than morality. And the internet is an incredible example of that. We have this tool, we have this communication device, but we weren't ready for it yet.
No.
And
so we weren't ready for morons to get a hold of it.
Well, for anyone. I mean, yeah. It's and I think it brings out the worst in people. I mean, I agree. You hear comments from aunts and uncles who you know are good people, who will say the worst things online.
The darndest things online.
Yeah, and without understanding that they have these words hurt.
You get that. You get the older generation that a lot of times doesn't understand the how their words project over a large audience.
Yeah.
Without any sort of tone or context. Then you also get a lot of people that just wouldn't say this stuff in real life, but under the guise of being, behind a keyboard, they feel like they can say these things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm almost wondering if just ripping away the anonymity of it, and that's not even true. There's really
that's the thing though. Even like on the anonymity, like on Facebook, I still see like people's first and last name, and they say stuff. And
they're not. It's not hiding. What? It's out in the open. Yeah.
And their profile picture's sitting right there, wearing some sort of racist thing, or just sitting there acting normal, as if like, okay, this is really how you think, huh?
Yeah.
So, like Twitter has some anonymity to it, and Instagram, but a lot of times Facebook, I see some, you go to the comment section on anything political on Facebook, and it's just a cesspool.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that's not the hatred in politics is going to only get ramped up in the next 2 years.
Did you guys notice any backlash because not you per se, but your show was doubling down on a lot of the Trump stuff?
I don't know if.
Or was it funny just because he was so sensitive about it that you could just get going with it because he just kept being so sensitive about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's certainly, it feeds itself. I mean, when he
it writes itself.
Yeah, and I don't know if how much like online backlash we'd get. I don't really follow that.
Right.
I'm sure.
I was wondering maybe you could feel anything when you're in the office, like, oh man, we're really getting it from the right.
Sometimes I don't know. I think they were certainly looking for ways to try to attack us. I think on some level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I mean, I actually think part of it is, I think it's sort of the middle of the road, middle of the country, enjoys seeing that, whether there's Trump supporters or not. I think they kind of enjoy watching it. I noticed this going back a little back in time, around 2001, right after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
There was an interesting thing I discovered about the show that there was right around that time, there was just patriotism reached a fever pitch right after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And there were probably definitely 6 months where you didn't question the government, you didn't question President
Absolutely.
Bush, everything, it's us versus them,
right?
And
we're doing whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, and so you can't question what George Bush is doing, even though we all know he's a big dummy, but he's our president and America's good. And so relatively shortly after 9/11, I remember Tina was doing Update at the time. We're doing some jokes, and we did a couple jokes about Bush being dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience, it was this dress rehearsal, and the audience turned on her and really started kind of booing. And I remember, I don't think she said it to the crowd, but she definitely said it backstage. She's like, he didn't get any smarter because those buildings fell down. Like, he's still a big dummy. And it was interesting. We couldn't make fun of him, but when Will Ferrell was playing him and doing the same type of, he's a big dummy, not big dummy, but like same type of dummy jokes about him, the audience loved it. And I think there's sort of a willing suspension of disbelief that Will is playing him, and it's sort of like he's in the room, and it's sort of like Bush is in on the joke a little bit. Right,
where like the celebrity kind of endorses it, or this professional comedian endorses it.
Well,
it's okay.
Think it's like a psychological phenomenon with the audience where they were like, "This, yeah, like some level George Bush must be approving this.
Yeah, there's some sort of thought of, they must be kind of friends, right? He wouldn't do this without George's approval,
right? And he's playing him very lovable, and I think a little bit of that happens with Baldwin and Trump, where I think most of America is watching this, like, whether or not you support him or not, they're like, okay, this is silly jokes, and it's okay if it's okay that he's making this silly little sketch.
And it's fun to poke fun at the people on top, right?
Yeah, totally. And there's that too. Yeah. Whereas I think when you're saying it about somebody, that I think gets their ire up. Except with Trump, who does not like the visual of being made fun of.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't like any sort of weakness being portrayed. And if he lets someone in a role on NBC on Saturday Night Live make fun of him without him at least saying something, it shows weakness.
Totally, yeah. And it's interesting because it is again complete opposite, where he responds to that visual, but almost never. I don't think he's ever said anything about Update when we do jokes about him, because he doesn't listen to those things, and he certainly has never said anything about like when Seth does Closer Looks, where he tears him apart for 20 minutes a night.
Yeah.
And he'd have to pay attention to something like that, and he doesn't. So.
I mean, that's something where you actually have to be intent. Whereas if you come across someone that looks like you, or someone's going to just be like, "Hey, man, like they're making fun of you again on Saturday Night Live. They got the guy Alec Baldwin again. They making him dress like you." Yeah. It's a little more of a active listening, watching to catch the Weekend Update stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Do you are you when they like what's the process? I don't know how involved you are, but what's the process on them selecting hosts and musical guests? Is that like a year-round thing that they have to plot out for 22 episodes?
Yeah, they certainly. I'm not part of this process, sure. But they definitely put a lot of thought into the season premiere. It's a whole calculus of like, do they have something to promote? Are they, will they be a good host? Just in general, will they be good on the show?
Right.
Are they available? That's the other big thing. They have to be free for a week. They can do like, it's actually a little easier now because almost all the late night talk shows are here now. Mm-hmm. So it used to be like if they had something coming up, they would have to go out to LA to do all the press. And now they generally are here. Mm. So that makes it a little easier that they can be available. But it's a weird balance of that. And then as the year progresses, I think they always kind of a big focus on who's hosting the Christmas show and who's hosting the finale. Mm-hmm. And then, they're try to find interesting people throughout the year, try to balance it out and do something different each.
Do the celebs week. Ever get on Weekend Update?
Sometimes.
So let's say you get you're like, this week we're going to have Liv Schreiber. He's on Weekend Update. Like, when you're writing for that or when you're producing for that, and the writers, of course, are writing, are they accommodating for, like, are they doing research on, like, okay, where can I put this person to make him funny as well? Or, like, how do you accommodate?
If the host is coming on Update, there's usually a very specific idea that has been pitched.
Okay.
So it's usually, we don't usually have to scramble to put the host in. And the other thing is,
who's pitching that idea?
Oh, it could come from any number of places.
Okay.
It could be a writer could have come up with an idea. The host sometimes. It used to happen when we had more recurring characters. There would always host would want to do the characters with the people, so we'd have like I forget now. There were a whole string of them where I'm kind of blanking on examples now, but
it's all good.
But we have it like Drunk Uncle or something, or where the host liked Drunk Uncle and wanted a shot to kind of do it with him. Mm-hmm. But mainly hosts don't come on Update because it's sort of their time to rest.
Got it.
Like the whole show is such a it's such a marathon, and they kind of get to rest during music before update, and then they get to watch rest through update. But every now and then there's an idea, like, and Timberlake would be on a lot. He did stuff on update for a while. God, who else would people come through? If like Tina was hosting, she would usually appear on update. Mm-hmm. Jimmy definitely did a couple times, but they had a very specific connection to update, so it was sort of.
So it kind of it was a little easier to incorporate them. I was wondering if there was like times where you're writing, you're like, oh man, this host now wants to be on update. How do we? We're used to working with this crew of people that we know the talents of, we know we can jot the timing and comedic elements of, but now we got to work with this wild card for this part of the show.
Yeah, it just happens so rarely. It's usually not. If it does happen, it's. I can't even think of a time where it's when we had to scramble for something for a host to be on. Yeah,
got it. Are you? You don't go to the parties anymore, huh? Are they still doing those?
Oh yeah, they still do them. No, I don't.
Is that what is this? So for the audience that doesn't know, after every episode, you guys throw a little party?
Yeah, after every show, they have a party, a cast party, and different restaurants and bars throughout the city. But I mean, they start it. Well, the show ends at 1, and theoretically the party starts at 1. But you don't get over there till 1:30, and then you schmooze and have a couple drinks, and it's 3:30 in the morning, and your Sunday is. And then sometimes now more often than not, they have afters. So they'll have the party goes till 4 whenever the restaurant closes, and then there's a party after that starts at 4.
And I just gotta say, go ahead, sorry.
And you can go to like 7 in the morning. But it is like 20-year-olds can only do that. I just cannot.
All I gotta say is, do you remember what we talked about the first time you were ever on?
Not really. What?
I'll remind you because it's important to me. If I were ever to come out there, especially with Imran, I would like to see you. Yes.
Yes.
But also be involved in some of this live audience after party, whatever the hell. And you were like, "Yeah, I'll do it for sure."
Oh, that was a very young man who said that.
You can go home. Just get us in.
Yeah, I can get you in. I can do that. Then I'm going to go home and go to bed.
Yeah, you'll be home by about 2:30.
Yeah. They're fun, but they are quite exhausting. It was back in the day when I did that. It was.
Were you doing it every week?
Oh yeah.
Oh man. And what were you still like late 20s, early 30s?
Oh yeah. Sundays were shot. I'd sleep till like noon, maybe 2:00. Get up, get something to eat, and then like just turn on the TV and veg for a little bit, and then pass out a couple hours later. They're just done. You couldn't do anything.
That sounds like my current life right now. Because I'm still single.
Oh, so there you go. You can do it.
I'll do that. I'll do the whole, not all the time, because now it's like really starting to wear on me, but I'll do the go out Saturday night, not get home till like 4 or 5 in the morning, sleep till like you said, noon, then get up. And it wasn't like great sleep either, so I'll eat.
Oh, no.
And then like decide like, I'm going to watch TV. Oh, wait, now I guess I'm tired. Okay, now I'm going to nap on the couch. Then you wake up at like 7 or 8 and you're like, where did the day go?
Yeah.
You eat and then you're like, I'm not tired anymore. Like you ruin your sleep for the next day.
Yeah. Well, totally. It's a terrible pattern. It's a terrible pattern.
Awful.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, when me and Imran get out there, maybe we'll take you up on the offer that you made years ago.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll isolate the audio for it, so it's proof.
I'll send you with an assistant or something. You can
there you go.
There you go.
Perfect. Yeah. So Saturday Night Live, 44 seasons. How long can this go? Can this go forever?
Well, it's got to go until I can retire, and then I don't care what happens.
Yeah, right. So at least another 20 years, 15 years?
Yeah, it's got to go. Yeah, I got to get the kids into college, and then
at least 20 years.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm definitely. I think as long as Lorne Michaels is around, it'll knock on wood, it'll keep chugging along.
I mean, the ratings are still pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean we've been blessed with good news and good material for the past few years. I mean, the show has always gone through cycles of being popular and not being popular. I think we've sort of been on a steady upswing over the past probably decade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the nature of the show allows it to refresh itself, so that you're not only does the cast cycle in and out, but the writers cycle in and out. So you're always getting new voices and new personalities behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, and I think that keeps it fresh. And we happen to be in an era where sort of the only things in network television that do well are live programs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a unique thing. That certainly was not. That was technology has changed and helped us a little bit for the better.
Yeah, the only thing, like you said, anything that doesn't decrease in viewership is the live aspect of it, and that really helps you. Yeah,
it certainly makes it, and especially.
Well, I was just gonna say the feel of anything could happen.
Yeah, totally. And as we're about to enter an election year, there'll be a lot of attention focused on us, especially probably a little bit more so this year, just with the Democrats and the primaries and stuff. That'll be a lot of attention. But next fall will be a real big push. With 2020 election will be a big deal.
We on the show we recently talked about how Mad Magazine was ending.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring up, because I literally just thought of this. Was there ever any time while you were working at SNL when you were like, look, those guys at Mad TV, it's kind of scary. They're getting good. Or was there ever any of that feel like they were direct competitors or some sort of threat?
When it started, yeah. When did it start? Was it like 2000 or something it started?
95 was its first year. Went to 95 to 2009. And then they had it renewed. 95. Yeah, and then they renewed for 1 year in 2016.
I remember there was definitely a time where I feel like they were getting more good buzz than us.
Mm-hmm.
But they were never live.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I understood it at the time, but now I do. They couldn't be flexible like we could be. Like if they their shows were pre-recorded.
Right.
So like they're sort of locked in. They can't be topical as much as we could be. And I think sort of the death knell was around 2000 with that 2000 election, where we did a lot of stuff with the debates and with Bush and Gore, but then as the recount stretched out, we were sort of got to be on top of that. And if you can't be on top of that and have something about it, something may change on Friday night. They couldn't respond to it. We could. And I think it makes them feel a little less relevant. And I think just Fox just doesn't have the patience. It was not. Those shows get expensive. We're an expensive show to do.
I mean, yeah, doing live. The amount the celebs, the artists that you bring in, it's all top notch.
Well, yeah, I mean and then just the production cost of it and doing this still, it's not a cheap show, and someday NBC is going to be like, hey,
let's move you over to some streaming thing.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's, nothing dies forever anymore in television. Everything kind of finds a new home on a different platform. Definitely. I definitely agree. How are you on time? I've probably got about 5 more minutes, if that's cool.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. So let me ask you this, since you're kind of a comedy expert. What do you, are you caught up on all the Marvel stuff?
Yes.
What do you think about, what they're doing and their brand of humor that they weave into their stuff?
I think it's brilliant. I just love those movies. I've started watching them with my son.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't quite get everything, but he's enjoying it. Everything through Endgame was just, I thought was stunning. I think the humor is great. I think they found something in a way to a voice that in a lot of ways, I thought captured the humor that I found in Marvel Comics. It made me love Marvel Comics as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And they found a way to translate that to the big screen that didn't seem corny and felt organic. They did a great job with developing their talent.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and course correcting. This is a little rambling answer, but I think Thor is an excellent example of their course correction, where they sort of discovered, oh, Chris Hemsworth is a funny dude,
right? And
like, were able to make that third Thor movie kind of an action comedy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would consider it a comedy. I mean, it seemed like to me they realized after Chris Hemsworth was in a few other movies, they're like, wait a minute, this guy, he looks like an action hero, but his talent is he's just really funny.
Yeah.
So let's just play that up.
Yeah.
Like, screw the old Thor where he's like talking in like old English and super like proper and wants to be a king or whatever. Let's just throw him on his head and see what happens. And
it was such a great thing, and I was beyond excited about they're doing Jane Foster's Thor.
Yeah, Jane Foster. Yeah,
because just the idea of just through all the those little asides they had in all the Avengers movies where Natalie Portman wasn't in them. And there's always those little like, where is she? Well, she's busy. She's off doing something. And just the idea that he got dumped by her is so funny. And now like they kind of get to play that up in this movie where they're going to be together with her kind of being his equal now is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, God, they did. They're just great movies. And they just reward you for paying attention without bogging you down in it. I've kind of consistently been rewatching Infinity War, which I think is just brilliant. The more I watch that movie, the tighter movie it seems, and just great jokes in it, but that don't take away from what's happening around it.
One of my favorite jokes in that movie is the running gag where Thor keeps calling Raccoon Rabbit.
So funny.
Sweet rabbit.
And even I love in Infinity War, or in Endgame, when he goes back to Asgard, goes back in time to Asgard, and you just hear one of those guards go, "Hey, get that rabbit!" And like, oh, they call raccoons rabbit on Asgard. That's what this whole.
Oh, that is fantastic. Yeah. The other one is he so earnestly, Rocket Raccoon, when they're leaving the ship in Infinity War, Rocket's like, "See you later." Like, you got a bunch of morons over here, and then Thor thinks that's their name, so it goes, "Farewell, morons," and he says it so earnestly, like as if he doesn't realize it's insulting all of them.
Yeah, it's so, and he calls Groot Tree.
Yeah,
because he doesn't need to know their names. No, because he like. It makes
he doesn't
sense.
Care. Yeah. He's lived for 1,500 years. He's going to call you what he wants to call you because he's going to make the read right off the bat that's what you are.
And that's, I think that was a testament to how good an actor Chris Hemsworth is, that he can do that without being insulting. Like he sounds like he genuinely likes this person when he calls him just a random name.
Right. Exactly.
And, it was fun. I really enjoyed that one.
It's great. I always end the show with letting you plug anything that you want to plug. So if you want to go, plug Team Steve's again or anything you want, the floor is yours, Scott.
Well, all right. I want to definitely plug Team of Steve's. Again, go to Amazon.
Yes.
Go search Team of Steve's. It'll come up. Buy it. You can read it even better.
You can read it.
Or you can just order copies for everyone you know.
Exactly.
This is, I think you will enjoy this. I think if you enjoy light sci-fi, if you enjoy teen comedies, if you enjoy you enjoy just good books, go read this. You'll have fun. Doesn't ask too much of you. There's a little drama in it. That's always fun. But yeah, go read it and enjoy it. That's, again, Team of Steve's. Find it. That's it. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
And then at some point, SNL's coming back, and you should watch that too.
You should watch it, especially watch Weekend Update.
Just watch Weekend Update
because you're the producer on that.
It's the best part of the show. Everyone knows
it really is. Definitely. And you're good. Anything else?
That's all I got. At some point in my life, my wife's texting me now. At some point in my life, there'll be a second book, and
you should buy that as well.
Yeah, you should totally buy that. So just,
and then the third one as well.
Just set it on that auto buy thing, and
exactly, and just keep watching Saturday Night Live until Scott decides to retire.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Perfect. Well, hey man, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Henno.
And this is Stephanie.
And we're from the Gotham Lights Podcast.
Also, the Orville Lights Podcast sometimes.
They are two podcasts dedicated to the television show Gotham
and the Orville.
Now, where can they reach us, Steph?
I'm so glad you asked, Henno. You can find us on Twitter at Gotham Lights. You can also find us on Facebook, don't you know?
Don't you know?
Just by searching Gotham Lights. Gotham Lights Podcast at gmail.com.